Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over this scope that you see in my hands and that you saw on my Ruger AR-556 throughout the intro, and that you'll see much more of, I'm sure, at the end. This is the TruGlo Omnia 6. This is their 1:6 second focal plane scope, and this one is also available in a 1:4. It's going to be, of course, a little bit smaller and a little bit lighter, but otherwise it's going to be very similar in terms of controls and reticles and all of those things. So this one came out, I believe, last year at SHOT Show, and a lot of you guys were asking me about this because I review a lot of low power variable optics, and because of the price point that this thing was coming in at. It's a very, very attractive price point, and a lot of folks wanted to see if it could actually perform well and hold zero and all of that stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the details of it, my experience with it, but first we're going to let the dogs take a look at it, make sure it gets their seal of approval, and then move on to those details.
Too shabby.
Getting into the details, we'll start here at the rear of the scope, and you guys can see we do have a fast focus eye ring that allows you to set the reticle to your eyes. Everyone's prescription is a little bit different, everyone's astigmatism is a little bit different, so it allows you to make it as clear as possible for your vision. Moving forward, we have our power selector ring, and it does come with the throw lever that you guys see here. That's definitely a big plus over most of these sort of budget LPVOs out there. Usually you're gonna have to buy that separate if you want it, and this one comes with it. I did remove the screw and Loctite it down. As you guys are going to see throughout the review, there's probably a reason for that. But here we had the 6 power, and to go to the 1 power, it's about half a throw all the way around to go back down to 1. Very quick, very smooth, really no complaints at all about the power selector. Continuing forward, the body of the scope is a 30mm body, and it also comes with the mount that you guys see here. The fact that it's 30mm is nice because if you want to use aftermarket mounts, most of the quality ones are going to be available in 30mm. Now the mount itself, I didn't have a ton of high hopes for it when I got it in, just looking at it based on some other imported optic mounts that I've used in the past. But we pulled the screws back out, and as I mentioned earlier with the Loctite, they had a little bit of oil on them, sort of like machine oil. I degreased them, put some purple Loctite on there, both here on the rings and here on the base. And once we got it all leveled out, mounted up on the scope, or rather on the rifle, it didn't move at all. We had a grand total of 0 issues at all out of the mount. So all in all, I was pleasantly surprised by it. Of course, if you want to use some lighter weight ones, you certainly can do so, because this one's not the lightest out there on the market, although it does have the relief cuts in there, which certainly is good. Shows that they're thinking about it. But we had 0 issues with it, so can't really complain too much about that. Now, moving on to the turrets, both for the windage and elevation, you're going to have a half MOA, or roughly a ½ inch of movement at 100 yards per click. Both of them do lock down when in the down position, so right now I cannot turn this. However, they are able to be adjusted when you pull up on it, and then you're just going to move each way. You can see it's nice and audible. The clicks aren't super crisp compared to like some more expensive ones out there, but again, this scope is not designed to be dialed in with a firing solution, because it does have a ballistic drop reticle that we'll get into here in just a second. So I recommend getting your 0 and then putting it on your 0 for both your windage and elevation, so that way you can tell if the turret's moved. That's one of the things that's sort of a risk when you're going with budget optics that have exposed turrets. It can happen. Again, this one can only move when in the up position, same here on the windage when pulled out, but it can happen. If they ever did a Gen 2 of this, I'd like to see some cap turrets, as long as they have the BDC. As long as they're going to have the BDC, I like cap turrets. There's just no reason to have them exposed, in my opinion. But again, we didn't have any issues with them at all. Over here on the left side, we do have our Illumination Selector. It's on 0 right now, and you can see from 0 you can either go to 11 or go to 1. Now, one thing I like about it is, of course, that it does have a good tactile feel when clicked into each position, but I do wish there was sort of like an in-between position, so that way you could set it for whatever lighting conditions that you expect, and then only have to move 1 to get to that lighting position, if that makes sense. So for instance, if I wanted it on 6, I would leave it like theoretically between 5 and 6 and then just click 6. It doesn't give you that option though. You got to start from 0. The reticle in this scope is called the All-Purpose Tactical Reticle, and overall, I was pleased with it. I really didn't have any issues with it. It does seem to be close to what they say, which we'll get to here in just a second. But basically, when you look there at the middle, the red portion that you guys see, that's going to be what's illuminated throughout. Now, this is a second focal plane scope, so you have to be at the 6th position for these subtensions to work out correctly. So, as you guys can see there, the lines in the middle are both 4 MOA, as are the stadia lines on the way down. It's designed to be zeroed at 50 yards or 50 or 200 yards if you look at the manual. Then you can see the drop points moving on down. Now, I actually did this 0 correctly, ran the data for my 16-inch Ruger that we were using it on with both M193 and M855, and you guys can see sort of how they line up. It's close with both of them, but not exact. And now they say they actually designed this around the M193, and I absolutely believe that. Could be at a different elevation or out of a different length barrel. It could line up just fine, but that's why BDCs are important. You always want to run your data and then verify out in the field. But we shot this one out to just under 600 yards, and it was very close. It was actually matching what the Strelok Pro app actually showed here on my screen. So in that regard, that was good. It is out there in different ballistic apps if you guys want to calculate your specific load for this reticle. But down in the low power, it's definitely quick to pick up. The red is very bright in most lighting conditions. Out in like the desert sun, you might not be able to see it all that well, but in most of the conditions I was shooting in, you could see it just fine. If you're using it for a home defense type of optic, you definitely would pick it up in low light for sure. But it's a simple reticle. It's designed to be quick up close and then also give you some capability at distance, and I found that to be true. If they were to ever redesign the reticle, one thing I would throw in there is that those stadia lines on the way down, while they're 4 MOA, so you can use that for range estimation. For example, most of the targets I use out there are 12 inches wide, so you can roughly correlate it to the different distance out there. I'd like to see something, maybe an 18 or 19-inch correlation at the different distances, so that we can range estimate like you can with, say, like a Trijicon ACOG or some of the other range estimation equipped optics out there. Like I said, you can do it because you know it's about 4 inches at 100 yards, but it's not designed for that. But that's just me being a little bit nitpicky. But overall, decent reticle, had no issues with it, and it works just fine. Just a few other things to talk about before we close the video out. One of them that's always important is going to be price. So this one, the 1 to 6 here, is about $250 street price, and the 1 to 4 is going to come in right around $190, $195, somewhere around that point. We will drop links below in the video description if you guys are actually looking to pick these up. But that certainly, again, is a very attractive price point, especially considering it includes the mount. In terms of weight, I'm rolling in the weight that you guys can see right here for the 1 to 6. I don't have the 1 to 7 to be able to say, but it's pretty comparable to other second focal plane 1 to 6s out there, again, especially considering the mount is not exactly like an Arrow lightweight mount or anything like that. But it's held up, it's worked well, and for the price point, I would be happy with it, and I would definitely pick it up again. So again, the thing that I would improve, or change rather, is kind of just the exposed turrets and a little bit on the reticle, but I'm not a scope designer. I'm just a guy who shoots a lot out in the farm. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions about the scope that I didn't cover, you can always post those down below in the comments section. As always, you can post over at my Facebook page as well. That's generally speaking the best way to get in touch with me. But yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you're not subscribed and you like what you saw here, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see all of you in the next video.